Hello board game brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know if Kickstarter is launching this week. And this is probably going to be my least fashionable episode. I was wearing a tragically hip shirt, and then I got kind of cold and just threw on this cardigan, and I guess that's kind of what my business attire has devolved into ever since I started working from home. But unlike every other episode I've filmed, I am wearing pants. Just kidding. I'm not wearing pants. Yeah, I am. I don't know where I'm going with this. But we are in December now, and the whole crowdfunding board game scene just kind of dries up at this point. So I'm not going to have too many games over the next few weeks, but I still do got a few for you. But I know a lot of you are probably wondering what you want to buy me for Christmas this year. And there's only one thing I really want, and it's absolutely free. And that's for you to go ahead and subscribe to Board Game Co.'s channel. He puts out all sorts of videos, whether they're Kickstarter previews, deep dives, or just topics that he wants to talk about. And he often puts out multiple videos for active campaigns, providing updates and more insights into the value proposition as it changes over time. And another reason I think you'll like his content is that you're watching this video. So if you like these types of videos, he also puts out one of his own at the start of the month, covering the entire month. And it's a lot harder to cover all the games if you're just doing one per month, because these dates are constantly changing and new games are always announced. So you'll still want to watch these videos. But if you want a high level overview of some of the games that are going to be launching during the month, you can definitely get a bit of a head start by watching his video. And he usually has a ton more games to cover every month, but this is December, so if you want to see the 3 or 4 more games that are going to be launched, I'll leave a link to his channel right up here. And if you think I deserve a little extra this year, you can subscribe to my channel as well. I did do a couple good things this year, and I was hardly mean to anyone. I usually start these videos with a little bit of news or new discoveries that I made, but there's not really much to say in this week, so let's just get straight to the Kickstarters. And launching on December 6th, we have the Palaces of Carrara, and this plays 2 to 4 players. It takes about 60 minutes to play. And this is coming from a team of designers with quite a lot of experience. We have Wolfgang Kramer that just has an obscene amount of games created, but he's famous for games like El Grande and Tikal and Downforce, as well as a ton of other games. And then we have Michael Kiesling that is most famous for creating Azul, but he also has a ton of other really excellent games like Vikings, and he also co-designed Tikal with Wolfgang Kramer as well, so they have worked together in the past. You might think that this game sounds familiar, or that you might have played it before, and that's probably true because this is a reprint for a game that's already been released in the past. So if you want to see any how to play videos or anything like that, there are a ton of them already out there. But the second edition is going to be making a few changes to the base rule set, and it's also going to add a completely new advanced mode as well. And if you haven't played this game before, it is a Euro game where players will have their own player board as well as a player screen, which they'll be using to hide the different resources that they've collected throughout the game. And there's going to be a few different endgame conditions that can trigger the end of the game. The main board is going to have a few different markets that players can purchase either blocks from or buildings, which will help them gain victory points or coins. And this is mainly where players will be performing their actions on their turn. A turn goes very quickly in this game, and you can choose one of 3 actions. And the first action you can do is to buy blocks from this rondel here. And this will always have 11 blocks on it, so anytime players are buying blocks from this rondel, it's going to be rotated, and then additional blocks are going to be drawn from a bag and added to it, so that the total number of blocks adds back up to 11. And the important thing to note here is that as the rondel rotates, the prices of the blocks are going to change, and it's all outlined on the edge of the circle here, where they get cheaper and cheaper as they rotate further down the rondel. Of course, if it makes a full rotation, it's going to go back up to the initial price, which may not happen too often because most of these blocks actually become free as they get in the final sections of that rondel. And the second action you can do is to build one of these buildings here, and this number up in the top right corner indicates how many blocks are required to build that building. And that's just telling you the number of blocks you need, but then depending on where you place it on your player board, that's going to dictate which blocks you can actually use to fulfill that building. So if you wanted to build it on the far right side of your board, you could use any colored block you want in any combination, but as you move to the left, it gets more and more restrictive, and on the farthest left side of your board, you can only use white blocks. So looking at this, you can start to see the relative value of the different blocks, since the white block can be used to build in any city, whereas the purple block can only be used on the farthest right side of your board. And the third action you can do is to score one of your cities or buildings. And the way that this works is that you can generate either victory points or coins depending on what you're choosing to score. And then your city is going to be multiplied by the buildings in that location. And this can only be done a limited number of times, so if you're scoring a building type, you'll just be putting a pawn out on your board to indicate that you've already scored that type. But if you're scoring a particular city, then you'll be putting your pawn out on the main board. In addition to some of the rule changes to the base game, they've also added a few new ideas, and that includes the addition of decorations or statues that can be purchased from the rondel, and you can see them in the center of the board here. And these can be purchased and added to your existing buildings to gain you more victory points at the end of the game. And if you are already a fan of this game and you're worried that you might not like these new rule changes, you'll definitely want to go ahead and follow the campaign, because it's going to be including a set of cards that will allow you to play with the older rule set. And I'm telling you this now because following now will get you those absolutely free, but if the campaign's already started, well, you should have subscribed to me earlier, and it's now going to be added as a €5 add-on. But either way, if you're interested in this game, I have links to all these campaigns in the description below. And launching on December 7th, we have Call of Kilforth, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 180 minutes to play. And this is a cooperative game, but it's also the third in a series. The first one was Gloom of Kilforth with a rating of 7.6, and then we had Shadows of Kilforth that has a really nice 8.0. And I imagine that this one's going to have a similar rating to those, because all three of these games do play fairly similar to each other, but they each bring something a little different to the table. And the way that this game works is that at the start of the game, you're going to be setting up a grid of cards in the center of the player area, and this is going to represent the world that you're going to be moving through. And each player is going to be choosing a class and a race, and you're going to be putting those two cards together to create your character. Then there's also going to be a deck of saga cards that players are going to be trying to play through in order to try and win the game. Each saga card is going to have a few different objectives that players are trying to achieve, and there's going to be different actions that you need to perform and different keywords that you're trying to collect as you move through the different locations and try to encounter different creatures or people that have those different keywords. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of cards put out on the table here, and the reason for that is that each location card is going to have a sort of terrain type, and that's going to be associated with one of these decks of cards. So whenever you move to one of those locations, you're going to be drawing a card from the associated deck. And depending on what you find there, you can choose to take a few different actions. You can either try to fight it, or you could try to influence it depending on what your skills are, or alternatively, you could try to sneak away. Each round does have a night phase that's going to make some of the locations a little bit more difficult, but you'll also be discovering different upgrades and allies that will help you throughout the game. As players progress through the saga cards and get closer and closer to the end, there is going to be a final encounter where you're going to be fighting a final boss for an epic finale. The game looks fantastic, and there's going to be quite a lot of variability because this board is randomly generated, as well as the different cards that you're going to encounter, and there's a ton of different classes and races that players can choose from. So every game will play quite a bit differently from the last, and this is a system that's been tried and true and people seem to really like. So if this seems like a game that you might be interested in, there's a ton of content out there already, and I think you can have a lot of confidence in this back. And since I'm doing these videos ahead of time, I don't have links to all these campaigns right now, but for the ones that I'm missing, I do have links to their website, and you'll definitely find a subscription option on their website that will notify you as soon as their campaign launches, or as soon as they set up that campaign page and share it with the public. And on December 10th, we have the Big Shuffle, and I am far too entertained by this website. And this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 minutes to play. And in this game, players are going to be trying to set up a film noir scene based on the character that they're playing as. Each player is going to have a character card at the start of the game, and it's going to dictate that film noir character trope that you are trying to enact. And in order to win the game, each character is going to have a special ability to help you along the way, as well as a scene requirement that you're going to be trying to set up on the player board. If you're able to set up your specific scene requirement, then you win the game. In order to do this, you're going to have to set up the who, what, and where cards in order to manipulate the scene to your preference. In addition to your special ability, you're also going to be able to take advantage of some different item cards to help you along the way or to harm the other players, because you're going to be constantly at odds with the other players as they're trying to set up their scene. And whoever does that first wins the game. And on December 11th, we have Shikoku 1889. And I know that's not exactly what this BGG page says, and that's because they've slightly changed the name, because this is going to be a reprint of a classic train game. And this game played 2 to 6 players and takes about 210 minutes to play, which is kind of specific. I guess that makes sense. But if you've played any 18xx games, this is going to have those same traits that a lot of those games have, where you're going to be buying different shares in different corporations and then building the railways for those corporations in order to increase the value of your shares and earn yourself dividends and different forms of income. But what this one does a little bit different is that the railroad corporations also conduct different operations throughout the game, and the player with the majority shareholder is going to be the one to decide which operations that corporation is going to take. The older trains in this game are also going to become obsolete over time, which is going to decrease their overall value, but then the earnings from the different cities are going to grow over time. And players will be trying to earn the most income and then make sure that the shares that they hold at the end of the game are worth the most, because whoever has the overall most value wins the game. And that's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this shorter episode, and I know a lot of us are going to be seeing friends and family over the holidays. Just be careful. I know there's going to be a lot of driving, and the roads do get crazy around this time of year, and they also get icy, especially if you're here in Canada, so just be safe out there and have yourself an awesome holiday. But until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full. Thank you.